I don't see any takers. Well, maybe one. Okay, thank you. Please, present it to the clerk.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Jeff Hoffman. I'm the directing attorney for California Rural Legal Assistance in Santa Rosa. And I just wanted to make a couple of comments. We haven't had a chance to review the report in detail, but I think, as you know, CRLA has a long history of advocating for the rural poor and for farm workers, especially both in Mendocino and Sonoma, Napa, and actually throughout the state. And so we've been involved to that end in advocacy and litigation regarding the housing element, just in terms of assuring that it's in compliance with state law. And that in turn means hopefully provision for more affordable housing for low-income persons and farm workers in Mendocino County. The needs study that we're reviewing arose out of the housing element and the needs to assure that it's in compliance with state law. And again, I haven't had a chance to review it in detail, but it looks like coming from the study, it's clear that there's a need for more farm worker housing. It appears there's agreement amongst all the parties surveyed that farm workers are living in crowded conditions, even many in substandard conditions, and all agree that there is a need, again, for more housing in that respect. So we look forward to an opportunity maybe to provide more comments and also to further steps that the county is going to take in terms of implementing and providing for the needs that have been established in the study. This was part of what the state of California had recommended and required, and that was back in December 2004 when the state had said that the county should use diligent efforts to facilitate the development of housing for farm workers, including doing this study and then taking that further. So again, we're glad to see the study, and we look forward again to further efforts by the county to implement what might be needed to meet the needs that are set forth in the study. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Supervisor Smith.
Thank you very much. I have a question for you. Could you just reference very, very briefly what you think those efforts, what would be appropriate efforts?
Well, again, I know there's some discussion of, with respect to action item 4.2 in the housing element to rezone the 50 acres. I know that that's been discussed in our advocacy efforts, so that would be one example. Again, I can't, not having had a chance to look at the study in detail, but it would appear that there's going to be a need to construct more housing. In fact, what the parties had recommended was that either that there be construction of more housing or the creation of conditions that will allow for improvement of current housing that might exist, either through, I would assume that means either through necessary zoning changes or allowances. And again, I can't go into detail, but I hope
Would you be able to follow up with written comments at a later date?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Supervisor Pinchas.
Just one other comment, Mr. Chairman. On page 6, basically it indicates that about 83% of the farm workers are here illegally, or the ones that don't admit they're here legally, they won't even talk to you, so that's probably a pretty good indication. But that's neither here nor there. What the issue is when you do a survey or a study, whatever you want to call it, when you have that much of a percentage, which is an overwhelming percentage that don't even want to talk to you or don't get involved, how are you going to come up with any numbers that reflect of the true picture of what's going on out there? I don't think you can, I mean, that's just the way it is. So for the 70 grand we spent on this, in my opinion, we should have given a $70,000 incentive to give to somebody to, like, as my idea was to waive the building permit fees on small units or something, at least you would get somewhere. This 70 grand we spent not only didn't get us anywhere, it told us that the figures that are here don't reflect anything. There's no trend or nothing definite to tell us, because when you have 83% of the farm workers that don't want to even respond or talk to it about how do you get a general consensus of what's even going on. I mean, if it was an 8.3%, then you have some trends, but not when it's 83%.
I don't know if you need a...
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, sure. The number that you're referring to is the number of farm workers that actually, in so many words, told us that they're not documented. So those are people that all participated in the survey, and they did give us, we got completed surveys from all those folks. The fact that they were willing to participate in the survey, despite the fact that they're not here legally, I think attests to their interest in efforts to improve farm worker housing. A lot of farm workers said that they were very pleased to see this kind of effort, and they hope something would come out of it. And so I would actually say that this probably points to the fact that the survey is pretty representative, because we know that anecdotally, at least, you know, a good portion, easily 70–80% of farm workers are not here legally, and that's what the survey reflects. So, you know, in that sense, I think it's probably pretty representative of reality.
Yeah, but talking to one employer in my whole district, I don't think is a good representation of
Yeah,
what's
that's
going on.
right. That's a different issue. Yeah.
Other questions? Other members of the public?
Lisa Hilligus, Managing Attorney for Legal Services of Northern California. I'm speaking today on behalf of Dottie Copeland and other farm workers in our community. I think it's great that we have this housing needs survey, and I wanted to, I guess, remind the board of why we had this survey done is because one of the obligations under housing element law is to do a needs assessment, and especially for special needs housing, and farm worker housing is considered farm workers are considered a subset of individuals who have special housing needs in our community. And when we were putting together the housing element 4 years ago, it was determined that the county didn't really have a lot of information about farm workers. It's not easy to obtain, and to be able to accomplish its goals and come up with programs and implement programs to help address what everybody knew was a big need but didn't really know much about it, that we would do this survey. So I'm really excited that this has been completed and is close to completion, and I urge you to help the planning team as far as providing more information on what you want to see in that survey, or information that's not clear, so that we can use this as an important tool for our next housing element revision, which is going to be taking place soon, which should be started soon, because with the information that's in this survey and this report will help tremendously as far as identifying areas in the county and coming up with programs to try to address the real shortage we have of adequate housing for our farm workers. I think that there's some really exciting information in this survey that can be really used as a tool for funding sources and as a basis for starting to think outside of the box and inside of the box on how we can try to meet the demand that we have in our county. A couple things I wanted to point out is that the next step after we have this survey is implementing the other portions of the housing element that do directly address farm worker housing needs. The staff report mentioned 2 action items, 2.6